Lesson 9-7, Fractions, Decimals, and Percents. And in this lesson, you learn to express decimals, fraction as percents, and vice versa. Why is it important? Because you can express your test and homework scores using percents. Okay, let's take a look at this hands-on activity, if you wish. You can compare quantities by using fractions, percents, or decimals. Each of these can be rewritten in the other two forms. The model at the right represents 1 unit. This is one whole unit right here. And since 36 of the 100 cells are shaded, 36 out of 100 or 0.36 of the model is shaded. So remember, this unit has been divided into 100 squares, and 36 of the squares have been shaded. So 36 out of 100 or 0.36 of the model is shaded. Using the definition of percent, we could also say that 36% of the model is shaded, because remember what we did. Percent is basically by the hundred, so 0.36, simply move the decimal 2 spaces to the right, will make that into a percent, or multiply 0.36 by 100, okay, and that's the reason why 0.36 is the same as 36%, okay. So you can make modulus to represent 1/2, 0.42, and 8%. How could you write, okay? Or you're asked to make modulus to represent 1/2, 0.42, and 8%. So let's take a look at the first one. And let's use blue shading. So when you say 1/2, that means 1/2 means, okay, 1/2 of all the squares, which is 25. Since this is already 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 36. So that means this whole thing is 40, and this becomes 50% right here. So that becomes 50%, okay, because the 1/2 has been shaded, okay. So how could you write 1/2 as a decimal or percent? And since we shaded 1/2 of this, okay, the decimal would be 0.5, okay, as a decimal, and as a percent, you simply multiply that by 100. When you multiply 0.5 by 100, or move the decimal 2 spaces to the right, this becomes 50%. So 0.5 is the same as 50%. Okay, how about 0.42? 0.42 as a percent. Would you observe about, what do you observe about the decimal point? You simply move it 2 spaces to the right. I just answered the question for you. So 0.42 as a percent is 42%. Why? Because 42% is just the same as 0.42 times 100. Or if you look at 0.42, you simply move the decimal 2 spaces to the right to make it into a percent. Okay? So write a procedure for writing a decimal as a percent and for writing a percent as a fraction. So the procedure, I think, is here. No, it's not. Okay, so write a procedure for writing a decimal as a percent. To write a decimal as a percent, you simply move the decimal point 2 spaces to the right. And to write a percent as a fraction, okay, if we want to express 0.42 as a fraction, we simply make it into 42 over 100, and then you simplify. Okay, 42 is 2 times 3 times 7, prime factorization, that is. 100 is 2 times 2 times 5 times 5. Okay, so that cancels out. Okay, and you end up with 21 over 50. Okay, and that is how you write a percent as a fraction. Okay, so let's learn the concept. You have written fractions as decimals and percents as percents. Fractions, decimals, and percents are all different names that represent the same number. So to express a decimal as a percent, write the decimal as a fraction with 1 as the denominator. Then write that fraction as an equivalent fraction with 100 as the denominator. Okay, if you look at 0.65 is the same as 65 over 100. Or if you multiply that by 100, move the decimal place 2 spaces to the right, it becomes 65%. So all of these mean the same number. Okay? So let's take a look at example number 1. Okay, 1a. 0.36, we want to express that decimal as a percent. So basically, we move it 2 spaces to the right. Okay, so you now have 0.36, okay, over 1, just like what it says in that paragraph. And then you simply multiply it by 100, okay? Or move the decimal 2 spaces to the right. It's the same. It becomes 36%. Okay? And that's what you do, multiply by 100. Okay, this is actually longer. All you can do is actually this, 0.36. Simply multiply that by 100. Will give you 36. Or 0.36, move that decimal 2 spaces to the right. Still will give you 36%. Okay? Let's look at B. Okay, same thing. 0.07 over 1, and then multiply both of them by 100, you end with 7%. Again, like what we did, you can also do this by getting 0.07 and multiplying it by 100. That'll give you 7%, or 0.07. Move the decimal place 2 spaces to the right. That'll give you 7% as well. Okay, there you go. And 0.004, okay, again, move it 2 spaces to the right. If I move it 2 spaces to the right here, 1, 2, okay, 0.04 is actually 0.004, I'm sorry, is actually 4% or 0.4%. Okay, and that's the same when you multiply it by 100. Finally, 1.8, move it 2 spaces to the right. Okay, move that decimal point 2 spaces to the right. That's your decimal. That'll give you 180%. Okay, so that'll give you 180% right there. Okay, and that's an easier way of converting them into percents. Let's take a look at example number 2. Example number 2, compare each decimal in example 1 with its equivalent percent. Notice that in each case, the decimal point moved 2 spaces to the right. So to express a fraction as a percent, first write the fraction as a decimal by dividing the numerator by the denominator, then write the decimal as a percent. So we want to convert this into a percent, but first we need to convert this into a fraction. Okay, we convert this into a fraction by dividing 3 by 5. So you basically do 3 divided by 5. Okay, remember this is your dividend. The numerator is your dividend. The denominator is your divisor. You end up with 0.6. And then from there, okay, you simply move the decimal 2 spaces to the right. Okay, right here, sorry, becomes 60%. In this case, 7 over 4, you simply divide 7 by 4. So 7 divided by 4, 7 goes into the house, 4 goes outside, end up with 1.75. Then move that 2 spaces to the right, gives you 175%. Same with 2 over 500. Okay, 0.004 is from 2 divided by 500. Again, you do the division. 2 divided by 500. Okay, so when you do that, decimal is right there. Okay, continue dividing until 500 goes into a number which is 2000, and that's the reason why you get 0.004. Okay, and then when you want to convert that into a percent, you simply move the decimal place 2 spaces to the right. Okay, moving it 2 spaces to the right or multiplying it by 100 will give you 4.4%. Okay, example number 3. To express a percent as a fraction, write the percent in the form of r over 100. Okay, so 15%. Want to make this into a fraction. That means this becomes 15 over 100. Okay, and 15 over 100. Simplest form is 3 over 20. Okay? And 8.5%. Okay? We want to express this again as a fraction in simplest form. So it's 8.5 over 100. The fraction bar indicates obviously division. So this simply means 87.5 divided by 100. And using what we know when we're dividing fractions, you get the reciprocal of 100 and multiply it to 87.5. So this now becomes 175 over 2, which is the improper fraction of 87.5, and multiply it by the reciprocal of 100, which is 1 over 100. And you do some cross canceling. GCF is 25. 25 divided by 100 is 4. 25 divided by 175 is 7. So 87.5 is simply 7 over 8, because 7 times 1 is 7, 2 times 4 is 8. Okay? And final example. Write each percent as a decimal. Actually, we have 2 more examples. Okay? So we want to express this as a decimal. This is easy enough. When you're expressing this as a decimal, this is the same as 17 over 100 or 0.17. Another easy way of doing this is simply moving the decimal point 2 spaces to the left. So you have 17, and the decimal of 17 is there. Since you're dividing by 100, you're moving it 2 spaces to the left, and you end up with 0.17. Okay, in the same manner, 250. Okay, easier way of doing this, move the decimal 2 spaces to the left. 250 is 2.5, because it's 250 over 100, or simply 2.5. So in example 4, notice that the decimal point was moved 2 spaces to the left to get the equivalent decimal. So the secret word for this particular lesson will be 49ers. Secret word will be 49ers. In the magazine survey on favorite perfumes, 26% of those asked use one certain perfume all the time, while 1/20th said that they never use perfume, which was a larger group. So we want to compare 26% and 1 over 20. Okay? So we want to write each number as a decimal so that we can compare them properly. And 26% is the same as 26 over 100. And as what we learned, we simply move the decimal 2 spaces to the left, so this becomes 0.26. 1 over 20th is the same as 0.05. We divided 1 by 20. So we actually divided 1, that's in the house, divide that by 20, and you end up with 0.05. Okay? And we simply compare 0.26 and 0.05, and this one is easy enough. Okay? So, and that's a division right there. Okay, how we arrived at 0.05. Since 0.26 is greater than 0.05, the group that said they use the same perfume each day was larger. Okay, and that's the end of our lesson. Thank you for watching.